Hello and welcome to today's Spot Route Track training, or not Route Track actually today. Today we're doing routes. So used to saying Route Track that I'm saying the wrong thing here. So today we're going to be going through spot routes, and we'll be going through a little bit of basics, kind of jumping back and forth between some basic route usage and advanced, so that hopefully we cover kind of all of the walks of route usage. So the first thing that we'll be covering today, and just before I continue, if you're not familiar with the webinar process, if you have any questions, feel free to click the hand icon and I can unmute you. You can ask your question for the group, or you can simply submit your questions through the questions tab. That seems to be the most popular method, but if you're not able to articulate quite the way you want to through the questions tab, again, feel free to just click that hand icon. I'll unmute you and answer any of those questions. So our format today, we're going to probably spend about half an hour going through, half an hour to 40 minutes going through some of our standard route usage. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on route track. We'll talk a little bit about how route track functions, but that is actually covered in our Wednesday afternoon webinars. So that's every Wednesday, and you can also see that webinar on our YouTube page at youtube.com/spot-pos media. Okay, so again, like I said, today we're going to start off with some of the route basics, and these are some of the basics that I cover in the route track webinar as well. But it's always good to have a kind of a recap. So first things first, if you're fairly new to Spot, then we'll just kind of go through where we access our routes and how they function. So in Spot, a route belongs to a given logical store. So right now I'm signed into my dry cleaner number one. We only have one store in this company, but if you're with a company that has multiple stores, and you are used to running your routes, I'm sure you you are familiar with this. You will come over to the delivery tab in Spot here. And the first thing we're going to do is go through how you would create a brand new route. So right now I've got some pre-existing routes already here, but I want to go ahead and create a brand new route. I'm going to open up a new area. So in Spot, you would come into Setup and Program Configuration. And again, the first thing you want to do is make sure that you're logged in to the store where these routes are going to belong. So we come to Setup and Program Configuration, enter our PIN, and come over to Store Settings. Now, if we come down to Store and Mark-in Settings, we can see that our default price table for this store is General. And then if we come down to our route settings, can expand this, we see routes, and I can do one of two things. I can either click directly on routes and click add here, which is generally one of the easier methods, or I can just right click and go to create new routes. Either method will do the exact same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and click add. Then I'm going to come up here to my name, and instead of new entry, I'm just going to call this Spencer's Thursday route. And then we've got a few settings that, again, there's a lot of settings here. There's only a handful of these that we actually require you to fill in order to make your route run from a very basic standpoint. So first, we want to make sure that the route is active. We can put in a description. This description is not used in a whole lot of places in Spot, so we don't necessarily need to put anything in there, but if it is helpful. One thing that I recommend using this description for is, rather than, and I actually just broke rule number 1 of routes in Spot, and that is never put somebody's name in the route, because turnover happens. Even if you have a driver who's been with you for 20 years, there's no telling what might happen a week from now. So I'm going to remove the name Thursday route, and some people like to track their routes by a number. Some people like to track them, especially if you were formerly a Compass Max user, you are probably familiar with just using the route number. But in this case, I'm just going to use Thursday route, keep it generic, and then use this description as as my where I can put specifics, because this description can be changed at any time. Where you don't necessarily changing the route name historically can have some problems and lead to some issues with spot. So I'm just going to call this Spencer's route, and then I've got my active. I want to make sure that this is an active route. This active flag can be disabled if you have a route that you've been running for quite some time and you're going to disable it. Simply, rather than deleting the route, if you uncheck this check mark, you can still run reports against that route, and that route will still show up in your list of routes when you run sales reporting. So that's always helpful. Then your route type. I have a route type of static, on-demand, or dynamic. In today's world, we really kind of focus on dynamic, and that it's due to a few things. Primarily, the Spot mobile app will only function with dynamic routes, and really dynamic allows you to have a combination of static and on-demand. And really, a static route and an on-demand route will kind of do the same thing, but the dynamic route uses some custom logic, or by custom logic, uses specific logic to allow that route to be used within the mobile app. So I'm going to keep that as dynamic. Then the default days, this is used to determine the days that this route runs. So I know that this is my Thursday route, and I'm just going to leave it as Thursday. If you've got a Monday, Thursday route, we check off both Monday and Thursday. But I'm going to leave this as Thursday only. And then we've got our promise date schedule and our price table. So if I leave this price table field blank, it is going to continue to use the store default. And we find the store default price table in store mark-in settings. So if you have the same pricing for your retail versus your routes, or if you have a route store and all you do in that store is process routes, then you don't necessarily need to set it by the route. I like to be a little bit more specific for good measure. So I'm going to come down, and even if it's not going to be general, let's say I chose to use, I'm not sure I trust any of these other ones. So I think classic is one that I have in place that will work just fine. And then I can choose a separate promise date schedule. Again, if I leave this unchecked, it will just use the store defaults for that price table, but I'm going to check off promise date 1. If it is possible, you can certainly create multiple promise date schedules for different routes, which is very common in the case of I know that I want my Monday and Thursday orders to be ready and staged, say on Friday or Saturday. I just want my driver to come in Monday morning and be ready to roll. And so I want those promised for Friday or Saturday, depending on your production, and then Wednesday evening. I want all of those ready to go, and that's how I want to make sure that I'm paying attention to those. Okay, if you've got a very specific tax entity, I know in places like Kansas, Louisiana, there's a couple other states where there are very specific tax requirements. Taxes change by locality, so I can have a default tax rate. If I live near a border and I've got a different tax rate across the border, and I'm only, this is, if I'm say somewhere in Texas and I'm delivering to Louisiana, I can set a specific tax rate by that route, and that will anytime I leave any of these blank, it will revert back to the store default. So right now my store default is 6.975 in my store invoice settings, but down on my route, I've now changed it to 6%, and for my alterations, I'm not charging any tax. Okay, some other settings that are helpful: the driver name, phone number, and email address. We actually utilize this data in a myriad of ways. We can print this off on the customer's invoice. So here, where I have Spencer's route, I can also put my driver name, Spencer Kilpack, 801-495-1200, and my email address, spencerk@spotpos.com. So now I can have the driver information for this route print off for each of these customers. And we also have nodes that can be used for emails for each of these pieces. Then if we come down to our default pickup type and delivery type, now this is where things get a little bit more complicated, and we'll come back to this piece. And a lot of these other pieces are getting a little bit more advanced. So there's not officially, just to use a route in Spot, really all you need to focus on is your route name, your route type, your default days, and that's just about it. Otherwise, everything else will just use the defaults. But these are some of the basic things that kind of help improve the quality of life with your routes. Okay, and again, the driver name and email address and phone number can be changed at any time without any impact to the route. So I'm going to go ahead and save out of here, and you'll notice I've also got it listed here at the bottom of my routes. Well, I don't want it to show all the way at the bottom, so I can click directly on routes and then come over here to the right side. You'll see Thursday route. I want this to show up on the very first page. I'm going to reorder. You can reorder these at any time you want. I can move them around. And I'm going to leave Thursday route really as my number 2 route. So I'll go ahead and click save here. And we've now created our first route in Spot. So now I'm going to come over here to delivery and put in my PIN. And you're going to see here's my new Thursday route. It's got no customers assigned to it. So again, we come over to delivery, we choose our route, and now we're going to start adding customers to the route. So I can come down here to insert stop, and I'm going to choose my customer, and I'm just going to call this Thursday stop 1. See, I don't have the customer in there at this point, so I add a new customer, and we've got our name in there. Now time for the remainder of the customer information. Oops, putting in the that information. Again, we would probably want to obviously require our address information. So let's do we'll get that in there. And then you'll see this verify address button. This verify address button is not in Spot by default. But I very strongly recommend you use this whenever possible. If I try to verify it, it's going to fail me right now. But what I would recommend is just make sure that you have, so I'm going to go ahead and add this customer, and you'll see I've got my day of Thursday is already set up by default. And this is going to give me a default day of Thursday for this stop, which means you'll see I can insert additional customers here. So I have Thursday stop 1, and I can add an additional customer here. Let's say I wanted to go let's find one of my 3 accounts. I want to add myself to this. And whoops, I grabbed the wrong one. 5, there we go. And now we've got 2 people on here. I can add any delivery instructions. So gate code 221, and for this guy, deliver to back door. And now I've got 2 separate customers that belong to the same stop that both have a delivery day of Thursday. So I say okay here. Let's not make any changes there. We'll figure that out. Take a look at that in a second. But now I've got a valid on day of Thursday. I'm going to come down here, and coming back to the piece with the verify address. Spot will use either Google Maps or Telogis to verify customer addresses. Telogis is very useful if you are in a case where you are if you're in a situation where you are planning to utilize the route optimization logic, where when you run a manifest, you are having it optimize that manifest to optimize that manifest for the best driving directions. So here I've got, I come down to spot map settings, And you'll see here I've got my mapping component. Normally you want to leave this as system, and then if you choose to use Telogis, you don't ever want to change this to Telogis like we just had it sitting here. You want it to use the system. The system version is always going to use Google Maps by default. Telogis does incur a charge of $6 a month per station that it's used on. So if you're using Telogis, make sure that you just come down here to Telogis Workstations Enabled and choose your workstation. So in this case, Spencer K is my workstation. So now I'm going to be using Google Maps except on this workstation. So I'm going to come down and save. And we're going to come back into delivery, enter my PIN. Let's come back to my Thursday route. Let's go over to Spencer Kilpack. And now I'm going to attempt to verify this address. And this should fail because I don't have the right, or actually no, this one should work just fine because I do have the correct zip code. So you'll see it comes up here, and now it's now mapped that customer. So I have verified that this customer is part of that mapping. There are also some other things that you can do if you've built some delivery zones. You can show the routes, and I can see which zones are available. There's a bit more that goes into the zone creation, and we will cover that here in the later half of this hour. So I'm going to go ahead and close here, and now I've got my route is fully configured. So I've got this set as you'll see I have some of my route information. This is my Thursday route on stop 1. And you'll see I don't have any customer specific information set just yet because I am still utilizing a scheduled stop. So again, 90th South, 40th West, we know that we've got that is a mappable stop. And if I come back to Thursday stop 1, one thing to note is this customer has a different address than this customer. So it's important that you pay attention to which address is being used for that stop, because we can only use one address for the stop as a whole. I can't use 2 different addresses. In most cases, this should not be an issue, but let's say I came down here to Spencer and I actually wanted to, this is the incorrect address. This is the actual address. I come down to use address, and you'll see that address changes for the stop. But if I come in and view this Thursday stop 1, verify this address, you'll see that was able to map as well. It is important that each of the customers map properly if you intend to use the manifest optimization logic. So if I come back to a customer or to a route that we've already created, let's come up to route 5. You'll see I've got a number of different configurations here, some Monday customers, some Monday, Thursday customers. And by the way, just because we have a Thursday route with default days of Thursday does not mean I can't add additional days to this stop. I can always add additional days to a stop. It's not necessarily what we would consider a best practice. Generally, you want to have the assigned days for that route be the assigned days for that route. Even if you've got customers who, if you have customers that are not using you Monday, then certainly uncheck those. But I would not consider it a best practice to just have all of my Monday, Thursday, and Tuesday, Friday customers all as part of the same route. It makes things very convoluted and a little bit messy, and it makes staging a complete nightmare in that regard. Okay, so I'm going to come up to my Route 5 here, and just to show you some of the things that we can do with the spot map piece, I'm going to come up to spot map. And again, one of the things that I recommend is if you intend to use the mapping functionality for optimization, set your Telogis station on your route station, and then come into spot map, and then you're going to go to select mapping criteria, and I'm going to select all mapping criteria. And what it's going to do, it's going to go through and attempt to map out every single customer that belongs to this route, because I'm choosing all days. You're going to see I've got one that failed to map so far. So I've got two stops that failed to map. I can see that this is condo stop 6 and Test Bluffdale stop 35. If I want to, I can print out that list, print out of the invoice printer. And so I've now got my list of condo 1 stop 6 and Test Bluffdale stop 35. So now I'm going to close out of here. Let's go to stop 6 and take a look at what we've got here. So it looks like we've got 3344 Peachtree, and I'm not sure what 3344 Peachtree should be. And in these are cases where you can go to, in most cases, what's going to be wrong is it should be something like 3344 Peachtree Lane. It should be maybe it should be, maybe you've got your zip code wrong. In this case, 3344 Peachtree Lane is the proper, this should actually be not in Draper, but we've got a whole bunch wrong with this. This should be 3344 South Peachtree Lane. And the way that I found this, I just used maps.google.com. So if I, let me grab this and share this out. So if we share that screen, you can see I just came up and searched for, and I actually wanted 3344 Peachtree, and then we can see that we've got Saratoga Springs. That's actually the one that I was looking for. If you're having trouble finding anything that makes sense, then you can certainly reach out to the customer and double check their address. But 3344 South Peachtree Lane, and we know that this is 84045, and we're in Saratoga Springs. So I'm going to come back to Spot here. Saratoga Springs, Utah 84045. And now when I go to verify, you're going to see it's going to ask me, you can see I've got a billing address here, but I'm going to go ahead and verify this address. I'm going to do the primary. And it's still not able to find that address. And that is one thing to note about the differences between Telogis and I should say Telogis and Google Maps. So one of the things that we can do is we can go try to find that ourselves. You'll see here as I click in here, it'll give me the correct spelling of that address. And so it can get a little messy sometimes. I know basically where this I know the general area. It should be right in here, and there's East Peachtree Lane. So there's South Peachtree Lane, and I can just kind of start clicking here. 780 South Peachtree Lane. So what you'll 780 98 East. Let's come up here, and yeah, it's completely different than what we would see here in Google Maps. And in Google Maps, it's not even showing me 3344 South Peachtree Lane. It's just showing me kind of whatever that different item is. So let's say I determine, oh, okay, it's 615 South Peachtree Lane. So I can close out of here, 615. And you'll see, kind of want to keep it the way that it can be quite temperamental. And so it is an exercise in patience to get this right. But once you get it right, it's all maintenance from that point. So you'll see now I can map that condo 1. And normally it's not going to be so completely off base. Again, this is all test data. So let's come up to stop 35, our Test Bluffdale, and 592 East, 13970 South in Draper. So it says it can't locate the customer. And again, I kind of know where that area is, but I can also come back to Google Maps and look that up. So that was going to be the 592 East, 13970 South, and 592 East, 13970 South. And all looks good to me. 592 East, so that's going to be down this way a ways. Over here by the park. And we see, oh goodness, which it's right by Somerset Circle, right here. So we see, and in this case, it's actually Beechwood Drive is the name of the street. So it's 592 East Beechwood Drive, according to Telogis. So now I'm going to map it. There it is, right there. Exactly where I wanted it to be. Okay, so now I come back into Spot Map, select my mapping criteria, select all of my routes, and it's going to go through and map out my routes once again. You'll see now it mapped everything successfully. Now what I can do is I can actually optimize the route as a whole. That's not necessarily something that I recognize you or that I recommend you do. Maybe do it once, but optimizing the route as a whole doesn't necessarily do a whole lot for me, because I could have whole blocks of customers. I could have all of these customers right here. I could have all of those just simply not show on a manifest because they're on demand. These customers, so I could be going from here to here, where if I have driving directions going from here to here to here to here to here to here, that doesn't necessarily help me. But if should I choose to, I can certainly do that optimization. So I'm going to go ahead and click all here. And I don't know that I actually want to do that. The optimization does take a little bit of time, especially the first time around. But and I believe I've already done it on this route. But again, for the sake of demonstration, I'll just go ahead and click Optimize Route here. You'll see it'll take some time. It's got to map them all. It's got them all mapped successfully, but then it has to. It utilizes the Telogis API to determine what the correct driving direction is. And the more stops that we throw at the API at Telogis, the more complex it gets. And so it certainly can take some time to go through this whole thing. You'll see it might say not responding. Spot is currently a single threaded application, so it's going to do one thing at a time, and if you try to do something else, then it's going to yell at you. So we'll sit here and wait for it. And so now it's going through its mappings, and the optimization is now completed. So now if I zoom out here, I can kind of click on these and see what the new stop order is. And I can save my optimized stops to my route assignments. So now it's all done. I close out, and now I've got, you'll see it just moved George Coleman in at stop 1, and then shifted test AR and so on down. But my general ordering, this multi-customer stop used to be stop number 33. So there's a few things that have changed, and there's some customers that have been added to this route in the past few weeks. Okay, now let's talk about a little bit about on-demand usage. So on-demand is well, first let's come back to a little bit more of the basics. At the beginning of this session, we talked about creating a single stop and setting days to visit the stop. That is what we would consider to be a static visit. A static stop means that everybody that belongs to that stop is going to show up on all of my manifests. So here I have Monday, Thursday. That means no matter who belongs to stop number 4, I have days assigned to the stop. When it comes to on-demand or some of the more complex setups, like a multiple customer stop, we simply say, okay, well, I don't want to use the stop rules. I want to use the customer's rules, which gives us a little bit more flexibility. So here for Victor Creed, I don't want him to automatically stop on Monday or Thursday at all. So I'm going to come back to Victor Creed, go view the customer. And this is where we come over to the route tab. And on the route tab, you'll see that I have a pickup type and a delivery type set to on demand, and my customer specific route information says that this customer is able to schedule a pickup or have a delivery on Monday and Thursday. And so really it's doing the same thing that we would at the stop level, only it's doing it more granular, from a more granular standpoint, and it's giving me the option to determine whether or not this customer automatically shows up on the manifest and how they show up on the manifest. So here I've got my pickup types of on demand. I can change this to scheduled and still have Monday and Thursday, and this customer would show up on every single Monday, Thursday manifest. But because I'm using the customer specific route rules, you'll see I've got some additional instructions I can use, special instructions, additional information, and I can make those pickup and delivery specific. Can also do an on-demand, and with on-demand, it will, anytime I mark in an order for this customer, it is automatically going to schedule a delivery, because Spot will recognize, hey, this is a route customer. They have deliveries automatically scheduled, and I can schedule a delivery for either Monday or Thursday. So if you have not explicitly requested a delivery for that customer, then Spot will simply assign a delivery date for the first invoice that gets marked in for that customer. And that's important because that means we don't have to schedule a delivery for all of our on-demand customers. The only thing we really need to worry about is scheduling that pickup. We can do that. We can schedule that pickup from a couple of places, and one of those is right here within the customer view. One of the other benefits of on-demand, or one of the other pieces that we can do, let's say I want to schedule all of my deliveries for those customers. You'll see I have on-demand REQ. So on-demand REQ means I have to, it essentially means I have to put in a request before that delivery will take place. This is not used, and it's not really part of our best practices. I would say that if you're going to do on-demand, you would want your delivery type to be simply on-demand rather than on-demand request. You'll see I've got mine set to keep them synchronized. You can have a scheduled pickup type, but still require your deliveries to be on-demand. Not certain how that's incredibly useful, but it is a possibility. And that could be a possibility where if you had, let's say I had this customer who I pick up their orders, but they like to pick them up from the store after they go home. I could decouple these and make it so that they're not always synchronized, and then set the pickup type to scheduled and my delivery type to on-demand or on-demand REQ. That way, the only time it gets delivered is when I require it. But that is a highly what we would call an edge case scenario. It's not going to be the standard way. It's going to be one of those exceptions that if you worry about all the exceptions, you'll definitely get hung up on those exceptions, and then you'll have so many exceptions that you forget what the rule is. So best practice, I would recommend you keep these tied together for pickup and delivery. Okay. Now let's take a look at the customer specific logic from a multiple customer scenario. So if I come down to, cancel out of here, I'm going to come down to my stop 25. And here I have Professor Xavier's School for Gifted Children. Yes, I like the X-Men. You just have to deal with it. But here we have Professor Xavier's School for Gifted Children. I can come in and edit this stop. You're going to see all of those customers that are part of this stop. And you can see I don't have any days selected for the stop itself. But I don't necessarily, and the reason that I don't have these days selected, I am always going to be at this school on Mondays and Thursdays. It's just like you might have with the corporate route. You are always going to be stopping at those locations as part of your route. But I don't, let's say rather than having 7, students or teachers listed here, let's say I had 40 or 50 or 70. I don't want 70 people showing up on my manifest, especially in a case where I'm using Route Track and I have to go through and process each and every one of those. And it's just not fun. So rather than having it clutter up my manifest, I keep these days disabled. And then I come into Professor Xavier's School for Gifted Children. And like we talked about before, I can still have this customer be scheduled without making the entire stop scheduled. So this customer is now scheduled on Monday and Thursday. They are going to show up on every manifest. But all of the subsequent customers, come view my customer, Lucas Bishop, he is set to on demand. I don't necessarily need to put in an on-demand request to pick up for him, but he will not show on the manifest unless I have something to deliver. And then his name will be there listed under this stop where we have the school itself listed first on the stop. So I certainly hope that makes a lot of sense. I know that a lot of people, this is a point, and even when years and years ago when I first started at Spot, this is the piece that I just struggled with, and hopefully this explanation kind of helps eliminate some of that confusion. Okay. All right. So coming back to a little bit to let's talk a little bit about running a manifest. So in the delivery manifest, we have a handful of different options. So if I'm running a manifest for today, I can run a new manifest, I can do a time range specifier, a supplementary manifest, or I can reprint a manifest that had already been run for today. And in yesterday's Route Track webinar, I actually ran the manifest for today. So you'll see I've got 2 manifests there. So if you ever need to reprint a manifest, you don't need to just run a whole new one. You can just go reprint it. So if I'm running a new manifest, then we also have full manifest, and then we have scheduled and delivery only. This scheduled delivery only is going the way of the dodo. That is kind of our original method for handling on demand, where it would only include, where we would set all of our stops to be static, but when we ran the delivery manifest, we would set this to be scheduled delivery only, and it would only show me the deliveries and those people who had requested an on-demand pickup. But what that didn't do is it didn't cover these scenarios where I want Professor Xavier's School for Gifted Children to show up as a scheduled stop. Without, so in the case of this customer, this is really what I would consider to be a placeholder customer. I'm never going, I am never, or very rarely, I'm going to actually detail an order for the school itself, and instead want to mark in for the sub accounts that are listed here. Okay. So again, coming back to our delivery manifest. So I can choose full or scheduled delivery only. I recommend you stick with full and then set up the customers using the customer specific route rules. And then we've got a type. I can do a detailed or summary. This is not as necessary in the world of Route Track because this is really just how it prints out. Then we have our optimize options. So am I going to optimize? And then driving directions. If I want it to print driving directions on my paper manifest, I'm still, I'm not using Route Track. I can certainly print the driving directions It's really something that was added probably more useful, maybe 10 years ago. Okay. And then this is actually one piece that people are not familiar with. That is the select starting and ending address. So the starting and ending address allows me, so let's come back to, if I come back into SpotMap, the first and last stop on my manifest is always going to be, by default, the store. So if I've got all of my customers mapped out for this route, my starting point, and if I jump to the store there, so my starting point is going to be at the store. So all of that optimized that I did recently, it's starting here, and you'll see I've got stop 36, and then I've got stop 3, stop 4, stop 5. I've got, and then and so the idea of this entire piece is that stop 1 is the store, and then it's going to try its best to do kind of a circle. So it's going to try to make it around to all of these stops and then come back. That's why you see a case where stop 4 and stop 3 are right next to the store, and stop 36 is also right next to the store, because I've got the beginning of the route and the end of the route all right next to my store. That's kind of the path that it's trying to take. Now, you'll see down here, stop 32. So we're kind of going out of our way a little bit. This is really not a great manifest that's been set up. Normally, probably for some place like Utah, you would have an entire route just for this, southwest area. And that would get you a much better driving direction. This would probably take you just to drive this route, if not stopping, it'd probably take several hours. Okay, so that's how it works by default. What the starting and stopping addresses will do for you is I set a starting and stopping address, and I can configure individual starting and stopping addresses. But let's say I want to start my route at the store, and I want to end it at a waypoint way out near the end of the route. So I can enter a starting and stopping address. So I want it to start out. I want it to start at the 7-Eleven, clear out in wherever, Lehigh, and I want it to end coming back to the store. So then I say, okay, it's going to have me add my route address. I can also add some predefined pieces. And then when I optimize, it's going to optimize in a completely different manner, because I just want it to kind of do a zigzag on its way back to the store, as opposed to trying to do a circle. This is one piece that has resulted in some fairly major improvements to the way people's routes are optimized. I will say this: optimization is not perfect. It has never been a perfect science. It works for some people and it doesn't work for others. For example, it is atrocious in Miami. I know that for a fact, because I worked with probably 5 customers in 5 weeks trying to get their optimization to a place where it would work. And they had all of their stops mapped, but it just was not good. And I don't know if it was due to constant changes in Miami. We update our maps quarterly from Telogis. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but it is just not perfect in some areas. Another place that it is absolutely atrocious is Omaha. There are streets in Omaha that it will just not play nice with. I don't know if it's how Omaha is laid out, or I just don't know. It's very, very bizarre. But Omaha is another place where it just absolutely will not play nice. Okay. Again, last piece is here on our prepay orders. Now, prepaying the orders helps us from a collection standpoint. So first, let's talk a little bit about Route Track and how we, first let's talk about how we collect payment and how Spot collects payment. In a standard route operation, I would run my delivery manifest. I'll just run a very quick basic one without any optimization. So I see I'm going to have 19 customers, 3 orders. Anytime I run this delivery manifest, my post order screen is going to populate with all of the invoices. So here's all the customers. If I continue along my way, you can see, if I can even see, let's get up to stop 25. Here's Professor Xavier's. You'll notice none of the additional customers are there. But any invoice that shows up on this manifest will then show up in my post order screen. So if I'm in a non-route track scenario, I would run this manifest, and then at the end of the day, when my driver got back, I would come in here and post those orders. So you'll see in this case that we have a customer who either A, doesn't have a credit card on file, or B, does not have an AR account. And so that's a case. Hello. Okay, I think I got it. I was pacing in my office here, and I actually unplugged my headset, so I apologize for that. So where was I? Where did I leave off? Okay, so again, the piece of in okay, so we run our manifest, and our orders are populated into our post order screen. We come into our post order screen, and this is where we would sell them out at the end of the day. So we run the route. We get back at the end of the day, and I can even uncheck things that I was unable to deliver. This is where we collect our payment. The newer method and the more popular method is, rather than, and I'd probably say this was probably how 85% of people did it probably 10 years ago, 10 or 15 years ago, when I was in my early days at Spot. It was kind of an industry standard to just use AR balances, and then either send bills out to customers or charge the credit card at the end of the month. The new world, we don't live in that world because of how fast we can process credit cards. And just credit cards are so much more prevalent that we can put those cards on file and not need to do it this way. So now, rather than running the delivery manifest and posting the orders, we run the delivery manifest, and we have the prepay order screen here. Run the manifest, and the first thing that pops up is my prepay. You'll see I've got some customers here that they either don't have a credit card on file or do not have an AR account. In a lot of cases, you do not have to have an AR account there is no requirement to have an AR account to use routes in Spot. So in this case, I'm going to come into this customer, and just for the sake of demonstration, you'll see I've got him set to default to credit card and use account on credit card decline. I'm going to change that to default to the account, and we'll ignore our warning on our expired card. It's fine. And then we'll do the same thing for Scott Summers. Just go add him as and in his case, he just is not an account customer at all. And now if I cancel this, let's close out and run a new manifest with my prepay orders. You're going to see it'll show up here with these check boxes. So now I can simply prepay these orders, and I can prepay it to either the customer's account or to the credit card based on the customer's ARCC precedence. And you can set that ARCC precedence as a default in your store settings. So that all new customers have that set. So when I go ahead and run my prepay, it's going to go ahead and post out these orders. And now I've either run the credit card or had it posted to the account, and my collection piece is complete. So now I don't have to worry about the absolute major benefit here is, of course, the credit card customers, because you will get your approvals and declines as soon as you run the prepay before you've even left the building. That's especially helpful because obviously once you deliver the close, they've already got their close. If the credit card is declined at that point, I mean, are they actually going to pay you? You don't know that for sure. Okay. All right. The other reason that prepay is so useful is because with RouteTrack does not currently have the ability to process a credit card. I believe we just got our mobile certification, and it should be coming in the next major update of RouteTrack, which could be anywhere between a week and 7 months from now. I shouldn't. That's a little cynical of a viewpoint. I don't normally know when those releases come, but I anticipate that it'll probably be in the next month or two that we see that next major update. So, all right. Okay, some other pieces that are useful for, I did promise, and we've got about 10 minutes left, so let's go through route zoning. So there are a few really cool things that we can do with route zones in Spot. The first and most important one currently is it allows your customers to sign up for an account online and automatically get assigned to a route. That is the absolute biggest piece. The other piece is, with that comes a caveat, and that is you have to define you have to build the zone, which is the absolute worst part, if you're doing it through Spot. And I'm going to show you a new method that we're using that makes it so much easier. So I'm going to come down here to my store settings. First thing you were going to do is, if you are building a route zone through Spot, you do not want to use Telogis to do it. Telogis doesn't work exactly as we want. So we're going to come down here to Telogis workstations enabled, uncheck mine, and then I'm going to come back to my store settings. And I'm going to come down to my route settings and routes. We'll come down to our Thursday route. If we scroll all the way down to the bottom here, we're going to see delivery zone. So I'm going to open up delivery zone, and this is going to bring up a map. And you'll understand why I say how tedious it is in Spot in just a moment once my map loads fully, if it wants to. May need to save out completely and come back in. Let's do that. So come back into our store settings, down to route settings, routes, Thursday route. Again, I apologize if I'm moving a little quick for you. Then down to delivery zone. Come to delivery zone. This is going to load up my Google Maps, and it's going to first focus in on my store. Now I can zoom out here and I can begin a zone definition, but the reason it's so tedious here is because when I begin my zone definition and I start clicking, as soon as I start clicking, I am now locked in. I'm now creating my zone. Now let's say I wanted to go right down here, but I accidentally clicked over here. Well, now I'm stuck. Now I have to start over completely. There's no editing of the zone the way that it's set up through Spot. And so I can continue to make changes to that zone. If I want to, I can just make one big large area. And anytime I end the zone definition, it's going to link the last two points. So there's my zone. That is a pretty terrible zone. I don't want to use it. I don't like it. So what I can do instead is use the Spot delivery console, or not the delivery console, the web manager. And the web manager, if I am going to switch over here, and you would want to, let's see, make sure I've got the right, browser here. So I'm going to come over here, and here I'm going to go to, I believe it's apps.mydrycleaner.com. This is the Spot web manager. So this is going to come, it's going to ask me for an account key. And again, if you want to start using this, you can speak with sales. This is now available for widespread use. So I would definitely recommend you speak with sales on this. And I am going to, let's see, where did my account key go? And this account key is the same account key that you would use for RouteTrack and the same password that you would use for RouteTrack. As soon as I can get mine pulled up here. And let me see, let's do that. Here we are, MDCUT43871, and then username, we're going to go with Spencer K, and my password is just my PIN and Spot. And it's going to sign in here. You're going to see a few of the things that we can do here. This is really the first phase of the next generation of spots. So you can see on Route 5, here's all of my stops. I can see whether they're on demand or Monday or what their day is. I can edit the stop, edit the customer, view their orders, if there are any. But what I'm more concerned with is showing you the zone piece. So here's all my zones. I can come down to my Thursday route. I'm going to say I want to edit my zone, and I haven't even started really creating a zone. And you'll see here I have show neighbors. I can uncheck that, or I can say, okay, well, I know where my neighbors are, so now I am going to set my color for this zone. This one's going to be red, and I'm going to create, and then I start clicking, and I can just create a nice big. You'll see kind of what it does. I can move things around. I can drag it. So why on earth would anybody create a zone through Spot ever again? Because I can make changes however I want. So I can come down here and grab the end, pull it tight. I can bring this piece out a little bit, bring this up. Not sure why it's not showing in red. That's annoying. Let's see what happens if I save that. And there it is, there's my red. So then I can come back to my Thursday and edit again, and now everything's going to be in red. So I guess it'll be in white the first time you create it, but I'm going to go ahead and create all of this. Move this out here. You can see we've got, and one other thing that you'll notice is I've now got 2 separate zones that are part of the same zone. So I can have, and you know what, actually that's not supported. That will be supported in the delivery console piece, but not in the web manager piece. I do recall that. But I can continue to just keep dragging, picking my pieces here. I want to drag that out. So there's some really, really slick ways of doing this. Make it really nice and clean. So now I've got a much cleaner zone. Can drag this up just so that it's, you know, nice and tight, and save that. And now I've got a zone for all the customers in this area. Okay. We are unfortunately out of time, so I hope you learned quite a bit from today's session. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer a couple questions. I do have another appointment coming up in about 10 minutes, so more than happy to take some time and answer any questions you have. Otherwise, I thank you for joining, and we'll see you next time. Hey, Ben.
Hey, I have a question about the multi-stop customers.
Hmm.
Is there a way to set them up where you don't get like pickup requests when you're delivering an order?
Oh, you're talking about with Route Track. Yeah, that is a bug that's going to be fixed in the near future.
Okay.
You're talking about the piece where it's saying, oh yeah, hey, there's a pickup request, but you didn't, but there's no bag scanned.
Well, that yes, but also like, so say that you have an order to deliver for them.
Hmm.
It's going to request like, or it's going to it asks you like to select 0 for that customer
Uh-huh.
for how many bags that you're picking up for.
Yeah.
Is is there a way so that it's just like you're just delivering for them? Because like you're not going to be
Mm,
picking up a bag even though you have when you have something to deliver.
right, right. And yeah, that seems like an oversight to me because if I look at, and that's a very good point that you're making, because if we come to the route itself, let's say I come to Kurt Wagner here and I come over to the route and I say I'm doing a delivery only on Monday. Um,
Hmm.
it should not be prompting me for bags on Monday. In that case, I should be able to just continue. I know that that kind of goes against the core. I don't know that that will ever change because the
Yeah.
core logic of Route Track is designed around doing the two-step operation. But
Hmm.
I'll have to find out. One place you can always get some thoughts on is I believe you're familiar with the forum.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be a good place to gather some thoughts there.
Okay.
And that's the people who manage that are actually that's actually the project managers. So they're
Okay.
they're the right people to post that for. That's the right
So
place to. Yeah.
so like if you want the customer to be able to like have the option to like do a pickup
Hmm.
on Monday through Friday, and you set it to pickup and delivery,
Hmm.
then when they like if they were to use um, the mobile app, then they'd be able to schedule a pickup. And then when you went to deliver the clothes like on Tuesday, it's
It's
still going to
still
prompt
looking.
you for
It's
that.
still looking for that bag.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That is definitely the conundrum. I
Okay.
definitely see that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if there was another setting I could do to disable it, basically.
No, that's a great point, and I've got some notes down already. Just jotting down some notes that I'll send up. I
Okay.
don't have the same involvement on the development side as I used to, unfortunately.
That's all right. The only other thing I saw with that was how you like if you want to do like a bag notification pickup,
Hmm.
that you're basically saying we don't pick up bags for the like I think there was some kind of like error in the logic for sending out like an email or stating
Yeah,
that we didn't pick up a bag basically.
yeah, yeah. There was an error in the logic that says, oh, hey, there's a request for this customer, even though there's no actual request. You're
Yeah.
delivering, and it's saying, hey, you didn't scan any bags, or hey, this customer sent in a request and they didn't scan any bags. Yeah, that's a bug that's being worked on.
Okay, cool.
Yep. Right. Any other questions out there? All right. Unfortunately, I do have another meeting that I'm headed to right now. So if you have any questions, we just know that we do have our open Q&A session tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Mountain. So if you think of anything, feel free to register for that webinar. We've got Tanner and Mike who should be running that. So if you have any questions, anything that you're curious about, feel free to join that webinar and get those questions out there. Again, I appreciate everybody's time, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.